ain't searching, I remember. I was born with the answer. Through the fire, through the pressure, I emerge with the standard. I don't follow, I awaken. Ain't no man like I'm the root, I'm the branches. I'm the law and the language. Yeah.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I'm the bridge connecting next generation to federal contracting. I am Ratwan Hill, and with me I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ambassador of Peace. And if you don't know who he is by now, you might want to ask Grok, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, man, happy Monday. How was the weekend?
I had a very good weekend. One of my young cousins turned one, and we went to his birthday party, and it was a Jurassic Park theme. So we had dinosaur DNA. I had a great weekend. Let me just say it that way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad to hear that. Love to hear that. So let's get right into it now. I've seen maybe 30, 40 minutes ago that Iran had attacked Kuwait and Bahrain. Now, on the American side, right, it seems that, to my understanding, that it was a war power resolution that passed finally on the House and Senate side, but it still seems like we're not at the point of peace yet. Shouldn't that have been the cure? Shouldn't that have been the cure and everything was all good, or should have been all good by now?
Well, I believe that it still can be the cure, okay. Right? You know, it's based on authority in statute, the War Powers Resolution, Section C, 5C of it, I think it is, which is what the House and the Senate used to put that provision in place, which, you know, by the language and spirit of the statute requires the president to rein this action in the Middle East in, and at a minimum sit down and have a conversation with Congress and explain to Congress, you know, why we are engaged in this particular action. There are differing opinions about the enforceability of that particular vote. And I think that it's incumbent upon the patriots, the people of these United States of America, to back the House and the Senate and employ a forcing function to ensure that the president reins this particular action in, and that we don't see another life lost there in the Middle East. But to answer your question directly, there is another form of war powers and control that Congress can employ in this situation. And the Senate actually voted on that particular resolution, and it failed, right? 2 days after they voted to pass the resolution that would rein the president in. And you really got to look at that behavior as schizophrenic as it is, to have a situation where the Senate grow a pair of testicles and actually agree to do the right-minded thing by the American people on one day, and then 2 days later almost look like their political action committee took them out to the woodshed and they take a similar vote and they vote a different way, right? We, the people, have to take a good close look at that, because that suggests that we have something amidst, we have something afoot in our body politics that we need to capture, and we need to wrestle it down to the ground and get it out of our politics, because it's not allowing our elected officials to do what's in the best interest of we the people. And in this instance, right, where you can have a vote, a resolution in a divided House and a divided Senate that agrees to a war powers resolution on one day and then the next day a quiet telegraphing signal come out of the Senate that says, not so fast. We don't know if we agree with that. That's letting you know that you have enemies within these United States that need to be identified and they need to be curtailed.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that the Patriots, so that we need to back the Congress. How does that look? Is that us? Well, I'm assuming that it's not us waiting to them to midterms to vote. Is it just keep outreaching, keep calling? Like, exactly what will we need to do to?
It's the old-fashioned squeaky wheel getting the oil. It's the old-fashioned empty wagon moving through the town, attracting all the attention. It's the people picking up the phone and contacting the sitting congressmen and senators and letting them know that this is an emergency, letting them know that they have a sense of urgency about seeing some actions around these issues that affect the lives of him and her who bore the battle, right? And we can use this as an opportunity to demonstrate to our congressmen and our senators that we're not asleep at the wheel. And we can point to some other shenanigans and actions that are coming out of this particular Congress that are equally suspect and questionable, like the Take Care of Our Veterans Act, right? Which I'm seeing some controversy develop around, and I'm taking another good close look at that bill because there are some valid questions that have to be answered about that bill, which, as we said during our last episode, does not include what would be a high priority within the veteran community, which is the Contract Our Veterans Act and the Veteran Members Loan Act. So we need to take a look at this Congress and its behavior, right? Not what they're saying, and its behavior, and see what we can do about bringing it into alignment with the spirit and intent of the Constitution of these United States of America.
Okay, you brought up the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, and then a lot of questions popped up in my head. Now, I saw that there was a split between VSOs, and specifically that American Legion was, on the side of they want the bill passed. And to my understanding was they were saying that it was going to happen regardless, and we might as well pretty much just support it. Now, is it an actual split in the VSO community, or is it being engineered to create a split within the veteran community?
That to me, this is a highly suspect response. And I mean, I've read the entire commander's endorsement of this particular action, and there's some partisan language in there that scares the bejesus out of me. And I haven't been connected intimately with the American Legion for a little over a decade now, but it does not seem appropriate that this kind of language would come out of the American Legion when you're dealing with a bill that has this kind of a threat to divide the veteran community, right? When you have a bill that has language in it that literally threatens the existence of the Veterans Administration and its entire hospital system, right? When you have a bill that has as many controversial provisions that are in it, like the fact that these actions, some of them are not retroactive, right? Some of them only apply to veterans moving forward. There's something about an endorsement coming out of the American Legion that sounds partisan. And I'm happy to see the other big dogs, right? The other big two of the big three standing up and saying, wait a second, right? Let's pump the brakes on this. It would be better for us to get an appropriate and right-minded piece of legislation in place the first time than get a dog piece of crap legislation in place that we'll have to try to put lipstick on pigs in order to keep it viable moving forward. So I'm hearing the veteran service organization community say, let's put the brakes on this one, and go back to the drawing board, and let's do it decent and in order this time, right? Let's not have a bunch of political appointees get into a silo and say, let's create a Frankenstein bill that we can throw in front of the veteran community as red meat and say, see what we did for you so that we can get your vote during the midterm. Those days of, the bait and switch, those shenanigan days are over. Let's rethink this legislation.
Now, from what I'm seeing, the early bill that was pretty much attacking veterans, disabled veteran benefits, and the veteran community had, we made an uproar and that stopped. The bill, this Take Care American Veterans Act bill, it pretty much had the same outcome. The veterans had an uproar and they put the brakes on it. So to me, it seems like we do have the pop, like veterans' voices is powerful. If we were able to do that twice, if we took that energy and concentrated in every angle that we needed to pretty much make it more beneficial for veterans, it seems like one thing we really have to do is do the same exact thing. Like it seems like we got the key. We got the key to me.
We do, and that's one of the reasons that's motivating me to establish the Capital Matters community, right, where we have our veterans actively participating in employment positions, intern positions, developmental staff positions within our elected officials' offices at the state, right, local, county, and city government. Because I believe that, if our men and women are in those positions, they're easily able to make a contribution to the legislation, right, to the authorities, because they're in the rooms, right? I was able to make a contribution that allowed disabled veterans to have a mentor protege program because I was in the room, right? Senator Snow, Senator Landrieu invited the American Legion's task force in the room when they were considering that bill, and they said, what do you guys think the veteran community needs? It's because veterans were in the room that those things happen. Parity in contracting. Again, we were in the room when they were trying to determine, should 8As or minorities or veterans, like what should be the pecking order in contracting from a parity perspective? We were in the room. And so I believe that in order for us to kind of change the trajectory of our elected process, we need to get people in the room with these individuals that are ultimately elected in office. And then we need to change the policies. We need to change the mechanisms that govern our systems, right? As our good friend Sophia Nelson, let me plug Sophia's book again, Redefining Freedom, if you guys haven't gotten that, has suggested this generation is obligated to redefine freedom for the future generation themselves, not relying on what my generation has suggested, because you guys are being impacted by a whole different set of circumstances. So even in this area, right, the body politics and how our political system operates, you all need to reimagine that, right? We allowed the nomenclature of career politician to show up during our lifetime, during our tenure, when we had control of the wheel. Your generation has the opportunity to evaluate whether or not that was the right-minded thing to do or not, and change it, right? You have the power to change those kinds of things. And as we're putting together mechanisms like Capital Matters, right, to bring right-minded legislation to the floor for a vote, your generation is responsible for making sure that the right people get put in office. Your generation is responsible for making sure that we're vetting these candidates, not based on some political action committee's ability to invest in digging up mud on the next guy or girl, but on the merits of their platform, on the things that they're looking to do for the people that they are going to be seated to serve. Your generation has an opportunity to change the game because we have had that material change in the theater.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, before I ask you questions, because I had some questions about what could my generation do or what could we do better. Before we do that, I do want to say, guys, if you want to participate in having a say-so for your veteran population, then that's the reason why you should join the Elite SDVOB network. That way you can participate in the Capital Matters movement, and you're able to have a say-so and more influence on how policies and things get changed for veterans. And if you don't want to join the Elite SDVOB network, that's fine. But if you still can participate by contributing, and we can still continue to push the good battle and keep advocating for veterans that like Mr. Cotton has been doing for 20 plus years. But back to what I want to ask. My question was, okay, now I was inspired by the Dr. Claude Anderson's Powernomics framework that says economics is the foundation to everything, right? So my question is to you, in regards to our generation doing something, is it getting the money first and putting ourselves in position, or is it us actually participating more in midterms and voting and interacting with Congress? Like which one comes first?
Dr. Claude Anderson was never wrong. Right? When you live in a society like the one that we live in, which is a golden rule society, right? He who has the gold rules. You have got to get yourself some wealth, right, in order to build the other components that you need for your institutions, your community, your neighborhood, right? So the first thing your generation needs to be looking at is taking control of the economic narrative, right? Being able to not necessarily look to another person, another country, another nation for your earning ability, but being able to look to yourself, becoming entrepreneurs. And fortunately for your generation, there is a point in time opportunity, right? There's a window of opportunity that has been opened up by all of the shenanigans that came out of this Agenda 2025 and this dismantling DEI action that has opened a door, a window of opportunity for him and her who bore the battle, right? To take advantage of a preference that you have in contracting with the federal government and use that to capture your desired share of the federal government's spend. And if you're smelling what I've been cooking, I'm telling everyone who has ears to hear that we have an economic contraction that's coming as a result of what this administration has done. And so those communities that can need to insulate themselves against the impending recession, the impending inflation pressure. And the best way for you to do that, again, if you're smelling what I'm cooking, is for you to identify those organic human resources that you have orbiting around your neighborhoods, around your communities. They don't look like the men and women behind me because they have now transitioned and become veterans. They look like me, right? And they own a golden ticket that empowers them with the ability to make a demand call against the federal government spend. That's not just the $1.3 trillion that they've got to put back in service to keep the government going, but it also includes the $36 billion that they've allocated under the Defense Production Act to reshore manufacturing assets here. And so if you're smelling what I'm cooking and you're a community leader and you want to insulate yourself against the pending challenge, take the idea that Mr. Hill is driving of Powernomics, identify the organic resources in your community that are veterans, and marshal them into a weaponized economic development tool. That'll serve you.
So just so for clarification for the audience, essentially you saying that because we have all these veterans in our communities, we can work together with those veterans in our communities, and us combining the veterans golden ticket, their natural resources that they bring with civilians that's in that community, we could create a force multiplier that allows us to build generational wealth, rebuild our communities, help the United States in rebuilding manufacturing and building our own manufacturing capabilities and more. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's correct. And I want to make sure that I'm accentuating the fact that this is a unique opportunity, right? Everybody talks about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Getting wealth, but you have to have a avenue, right? You have to have a pathway that allows you to participate in, the land grant that happened back in the day when all of those people got that free land, right? You have to have a gold rush that allows you to go out west and get your gold stake and acquire some personal wealth. Well, we have that opportunity for him and her who bore the battle right now. And that opportunity is in the form of disabled veteran contracting, right? And if you are a disabled veteran that wears my social uniform, you have an opportunity right now to make a demand call against what's greater than a $1.3 trillion market opportunity. And so that's the underlying whisper word that we're trying to share with him and her who bore the battle. And those community development, economic development leaders, we're trying to point your attention to the most valuable asset that you're overlooking in your community today.
Yes, sir. Now, the question I was going to ask you, I'm glad you said that, was, okay, now, from your generation to my generation, there's a big difference in the opportunities we have. You guys have less opportunities. Now, we have from the guy who wants to be a YouTuber or Twitcher to the guy who wants to be a day trader to the credit repair to the housing rehab, house flipping. With all this opportunities, how can we juxtapose what is the best pathway to go down? It seems like it's over flooded with information to where it may be an analysis paralysis of, man, I could do this, that, and the third. Why is government contracting, the veteran ticket, federal contracting specifically, why is that the best path?
And so you froze, and I know you're in Texas and they're dealing with some storm or weather related issues. So I'm going to talk through that and let me get a prop to use for answering this question. And the reason that federal contracting is the better path than these other paths is because it gives you something that you can own and you can control, right? It gives you a physical asset that you can actually hold in your hand that no one can take from you. Whereas, when you're dealing with some of these new market ideas like, the YouTube and the TikTok and the like, someone can control the algorithm, right? Someone can throttle the algorithm once you build that, $1 million million views of followers and condense that back down to where you lost your whole income stream. So the reason that government contracting is a much more viable pathway than these other arenas is because it gives you some physical assets that you own, that have your name on them, that you have the equity control over, and that you can now either sell, keep for yourself, or will them right to a loving generation that will happily inherit them. That's why this pathway provides you the best possible or better example than the other examples. I'm going to give you another example that we've talked about before. Our friend with Worldwide Technologies, right? What's that guy's name? David
Stewart, is that
David Stewart. See, even the youth know his name, right? Mr. David Stewart's family is one of the 5 top richest families of color in North America. Mr. David Stewart cut his teeth. He built the foundation of this Worldwide Technology, multi-billion-dollar corporation on federal contracting as an 8A organization out of St. Louis, Missouri, right? So you'll know them by their fruits, right? There are not a lot of pathways that you can take that are like what government contracting offers the average man, right? You don't have to be Michael Jordan, right? The exception in order to do exceptional things in this space.
Mm-hmm. So pretty much what I'm understanding you to say that this is an opportunity that the regular man could participate in, and they don't have to have extravagant skill sets. And the fact that you know, the federal government, the government has money that they have to spend every year, and it's a budget that is that's getting passed every year. So therefore, there's always going to be that pool of money where we have an advantage, and we could always capitalize off of versus.
Well, I'm not going to say you put a couple of always in there, because I think that we are in a unique point in time for him and her who bore the battle for mm-hmm. veterans, right? You know, mm-hmm. and I've been saying this to everybody who will listen. You know, God and America wants its veterans to be rich, dare I say wealthy, right? And I say if that weren't so, there wouldn't be evidence of that fact. And the evidence that I've seen of that fact is all of the other preference categories, right? The small disadvantaged business preference categories have been disrupted, right? The woman-owned business category, they're looking at it side eye with a little jaundice eye right now. The 8A category has been disrupted, and the service disabled veteran community has been left as the highest award source, the least risk award source, with the largest single customer in North America at a season where that customer needs to spend trillions of dollars, right? A reshoring manufacturing assets, the military industrial complex needs to replace the munitions that were, you know, blown up in Iran, and the stuff that was used in Kuwait, not Kuwait, but with the Russia and
Ukraine.
In Ukraine, right? And so the federal government right now is going to be the customer of choice for the market. Our disabled veterans own a competitive advantage with that customer. So we've got an alignment right now for him and her who bore the battle. If you are paying attention, that is almost a once in a lifetime event. And what we're urging all of those servicemen and women who wear my social uniform to do is take full advantage of it, right? Take full advantage of it, because we can utilize this economic shift in the balance of power as a foundation to gain rack and pinion control, rack and pinion steering on the other elements of our communities, the other elements of our neighborhoods that we need. Looking at the example that Mr. Hill is, I guess, seduced by, which is the Powernomics example. Once he gets that economic foundation, he sees a pathway to build a political layer on top of that economic foundation, right? Which leads to a security layer on top of that foundation. So he is following a proven pathway that he wants to share with his community. And I'm off on a tangent, so I'm going to put the big talking stick down and pass it back to you.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect, because as you say that, and just thinking more about it is like, okay, we get the economic shore up with veterans, right? The veterans have already proven that our voice is very influential multiple times already. And then when we even think about the security justice component, is like, who better to protect your community than the people who protected the United States? The most experienced. We were already trained by the government, so it just makes perfect sense. But guys, that's all the more the reason why you should join the Elite SDVOB network and participate in this movement to revitalize your community, to learn how to build generational wealth, to participate in this once in a lifetime opportunity that may not be here again. But guys, on that note, we'll catch you on Wednesday. And I am Ratwan Hill, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time.